Eleanor Ellie Simmons had been dreaming of this moment her entire career, her first big seminar as a keynote speaker. The audience was filled with professionals, CEOs, entrepreneurs, investors, a who's who of the business world. Ellie was a rising star, a strategic consultant with a reputation for turning struggling companies around. She was young, black, and brilliant, a triple threat in a world that often mistook her for an intern when she walked into boardrooms. She stood backstage, heart hammering, adjusting the microphone clipped to her navy blazer. She had worked twice as hard for half as much recognition most of her life. And now, she was here, center stage. When they called her name, polite applause filled the room. She stepped into the lights, smiled, and began her talk. Success isn't about who you know. It's about who you choose to see. The first 10 minutes were smooth. She could feel the audience leaning in, some nodding thoughtfully. But as she scanned the rows of faces, she caught small signs. A few people checking their phones, a few arms crossed tight across chests, a few pairs of narrowed eyes. She knew those looks, the ones that said, "You don't belong here." After the session, the conference hosted a networking lunch. Ellie walked into the dining hall and froze. Dozens of round tables, each buzzing with conversation. Every seat was filled, except for one. An empty chair at a table near the center, the table of sponsors. Powerful faces, the decision makers. She walked toward it, clutching her plate, trying to will her legs not to shake. As she approached, one man, middle-aged, expensive suit, smug smile, leaned toward the group and whispered something. A few people chuckled. Ellie pretended not to notice. She set her plate down and slid into the chair. The conversation at the table died. No one spoke to her. No one made eye contact. For 20 minutes, Ellie sat there smiling at her plate, the clatter of forks and forced laughter around her louder than thunder. And when dessert was served, she quietly stood up, left her barely touched plate, and made her way toward the exit, blinking back the burn in her eyes. That's when she heard someone call out, "Miss Simmons?" She turned. A tall woman, Korean-American, maybe mid-40s, sharp eyes but a soft smile, approached her. "I'm Hannah Lee," she said. "I was hoping you'd have lunch with us." Ellie hesitated. Hannah tilted her head toward a table in the far corner. It wasn't the most important table. No big name tags, no flashing cameras, but it was filled with people smiling. Genuinely. A South Asian man in a crisp suit, a white woman with a rainbow pin, an older Latino gentleman who stood to pull out a chair for her. Ellie sat down, and something shifted. They talked about real things, not just profits and market shares, but resilience, bias, empathy. They talked about building companies where every seat at the table mattered, not just the ones labeled VIP. By the end of the lunch, Ellie had made deeper connections than she ever could have imagined. Months later, those connections turned into consulting contracts, speaking invitations, partnerships, friendships. Hannah became her mentor, her advocate, and later, her business partner. Years down the line, Ellie and Hannah started their own leadership institute, focused on empowering minority entrepreneurs, giving them the tools, funding, and networks that had been gatekept from them for too long. And at their very first conference, in the front row, they kept a chair intentionally empty. A symbol. Not because there wasn't enough space, but because there was, always, room for the ones who had been told otherwise. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's build more tables where every seat is filled with dignity, purpose, and true belonging. Thank you for being here. Your story matters.